Um, so at this moment, I'll turn this over to Carol. I don't know if you want to introduce our program today.
Sure. I'm really excited to introduce my husband as our speaker today. Living with him is definitely an art project in and of itself. It's wonderful. He graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. He's a fourth generation baker from Iowa, so I enjoy many of his skilled baked goods, and he has been, his passion has been animation, and some of you may know him for being the rubber stamp guy. He's out of the rubber stamp business, really focusing more on his animation. And I am going to turn it over to my husband, Stephen Vander.
Steve, I did turn you over as host, so feel free to share.
All right, I will be sharing my screen in a moment here. I just want to start by telling you that how I got my start in animation and what kind of animation that I do. A lot of people, when I tell them I do animation, they start thinking immediately Disney or SpongeBob SquarePants and stuff like that, but I don't do that kind of animation. I do animation as art, so it's like painter paints, musician sings. I do animation as my art. It's a form of self-expression, and I'm gonna tell you how I got my start, and I'm gonna show you little snippets from about eight of my films. They're all very short, but I'm just gonna show you 30 seconds of each one. And then if you like them, you can go on my website, stephenvandermeer.com, and you can watch the whole films. And they're all less than 10 minutes, so it's really, you could probably watch all of my work in less than an hour if you binge watched it. But a funner suggestion might be, like, if you have a movie night at your house, bring up one of my short films and watch it before the movie. It's kind of fun. So like Carol said, I went to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. I graduated in 1985. And a year later, I had an opportunity to come out to Arcata, and it was only going to be for 3 months, and I thought I'd make my first film. And I was surprised to learn that you can't make a 9-minute film in 3 months. It took me 18 months to make that film. It's called Arcata Brain Closet, and it's an alphabetical film. And it's my first film on index cards, which I got some around here someplace. I animate by drawing on little index cards, which is kind of unusual, but it's kind of fun because you can sort of flip them like a flip book. And then I scan each index card and put it on the computer to put them together. And so I'm going to show you a snippet right now of my first film, Arcata Brain Closet, which was completed in 1988. Let's see. So you can see in the corner, down in the corner of the screen, you might see this little, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little box with numbers in it. And I actually made a rubber stamp, because I used to be a rubber stamp maker, and I stamp each card with that little box, and then I number the drawings. And it's kind of a fun way to point out the fact that what you're seeing are 12 little drawings by hand every second. So that film is 9 minutes long, and it took like, I think, 4,200 and something of these little drawings. And it's really inspired by my life, you know, just things that happen. It's an alphabetical film, like I said, and there's a little tiny short film within the film for each letter of the alphabet, and it's all stuff that just happened to me. So my next film was, it's called Beings from Another Planet, and This one's kind of silly because I was so happy and excited about the, the sort of success that the first film had. It played at film festivals, including the Sundance Festival, and it got some awards and some money. And I was so high on that success that I want to make another film right away. And I got inspired at a barbecue where I had too much tequila, and I made this film. I'm used to doing Q&As at film festivals and things and seeing the audience react. So this is kind of weird on Zoom. You're seeing this, right? And people can hear the sound? Okay, good. We did some tests and it wasn't always smooth. So after that film, which was 1992, I started Meer Image Rubber Stamp Company, and I went down a rabbit hole. I've made rubber stamps for over 25 years, and Carol and I got engaged at a rubber stamp festival. Our honeymoon was at a rubber stamp festival convention, and it just, having an art business sucks your whole life. I went for I think it was 17 years without doing any animation. Carol encouraged me to get back into it, and so right around 2007, I think, is when I did my next film, and it's called More from Life, and it's one of those daily drawing projects. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but a lot of artists do a daily drawing project where they just do one little drawing a day just to keep things flowing, right? And so I took my little packet of index cards around with me in my pocket every day for a year, and I drew a drawing on an index card. And the only rule is that the drawing had to be from life. And it didn't need to be alive. It needed to be not out of my head, something I was looking at. There are a lot of self-portraits, there are a lot of figure drawings, there's a lot of drawings from travel, and there's inane things like a toothbrush. But what I did was I drew one drawing a day, 365 drawings, and then I morphed each drawing one to the next. And a morph is when one drawing melts into another. And there's only 15 drawings in between each, so the morph is fairly quick. At 12 drawings per second, that's about a 1 1/3 second morph. But so you're going to see 365 morphs in a row if you watch the whole film. But I'm just going to show you 30 seconds of it right here. So I just want to also say right now that in my filmmaking, music is really important to me. I'm not a musician, but I like working with musicians to add music to my films. Or in the case of this next film, well, no, actually that's true with the next film. The next film is called Salmon Deadly Sins, and I licensed music to add to this film from a band called Leftover Salmon. And this film is drawn on salmon-colored index cards. And the reason it's drawn on these is because I was looking for index cards on eBay, and I found some salmon ones really cheap. And then I got inspired by another artist named Kent Bellows about doing an art project about the 7 deadly sins. So I combined these two ideas and made the Salmon Deadly Sins. So here's a snippet from that. that, that was a fun film to make. That took about 3 years. And during that film, Carol and I bought the building that I'm in right now and did a renovation and made it into my new studio. So it was quite a year, or 3 years. Anyway, as I said, music's very important. And up until Salmon Deadly Sins, I'd always either hired musicians to write music, or in the case of Salmon Deadly Sins, I licensed music to add. And what I always wanted to do was start with music and draw to it. So it's the opposite of what I've done. And so there was a local band called the Absinthe Quintet, and I knew the guys, and I told them one time that I was looking for music to animate to, and they said, "Oh boy, we got a song for you. Check this out." And they gave me Boomerang.
It's no coincidence when it happens this way. It's no coincidence when it happens this way. It's no coincidence when it happens this way. Make yourself comfortable, enjoy your stay. Enjoy your stay, yeah.
I had a blast making that film, and it was very different because I let the music and the lyrics inspire me, and I listened to them and came up with ideas based on those, and it was a really different way of working for me, and really loved it. The next film is called Random Thoughts, and it's inspired by my experiences at film festivals. That film, I worked with a local musician sound guy by the name of Corey Goldman, and we worked on it simultaneously. Like, I would get a piece of film done and give it to him, and he'd start putting music and sounds to it. And he did it. He was giving me banjo lessons at the time, and we talked about animation, and he told me that he'd always wanted to do music to animation, just like I've always wanted to do animation to music. So it was a pretty good collaboration there. So then, now all these films up till now have been done on the little index cards, like I said. I also now have an iPad, and the next film is another one of those daily drawing projects, only I did it on my iPad, and instead of 1 drawing a day, I did 12 drawings a day, and 12 drawings is 1 second of animation. So this next film, if you watch the whole thing, is 365 seconds long, and it's linear in that I drew the drawings in order, 12 a day, and they're all just out of my head. I just kind of made stuff up as I went along. So it's kind of random. And then when I got it done, it was just kind of a fun project, to keep me drawing every day. When I got it done, it's like, oh, this is kind of cool. And another musician friend of mine said, oh, I got a new music studio and I got some buddies. Why don't you let us have that film and we'll put some music to it? So they did. And it just came together. So here's a little snippet of that. Just to be clear, there's no computer animation. It is drawn on my iPad, but it's drawn with an Apple Pencil by hand, frame by frame. I don't let the computer do any of my animation because I want to do that. It's fun. Okay, so the last snippet I'm going to show you is a film called Lost Lula, and it also is drawn on my iPad. And this is another music video. This is Lost Lula is the name of the song, and it came from a couple of musician friends of mine. And it's an instrumental, so it's just, and the imagery on this one is taken from my life drawing. Now, I've done life drawing in Arcata since 1997. That's when I started the Arcata Life Drawing Circle. And so a bunch of people get together every week and draw a model from life. And for this film, I started drawing the models on my iPad and then animating them. So here's what that looks like. So that is that. Can you see this? I was going to show this. This is just a, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can kind of see that. This is a chunk of drawings from one of my films, Salmon Deadly Sins, and it's just to demonstrate how you can flip them like a flip book. It's what I do when people come into my studio, or when I go to film festivals, I put one of these in my pocket, and it's a good icebreaker and conversation starter. If there's time, I'd like to take any questions that anybody might have.
Stephen, you might want to stop sharing your screen so that you will be bigger if people want to ask.
Right. There.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, behind Carol, if you can see her on the wall, are prints of sequences of some of my films.
See a comment about being on Access Humboldt recently in the chat.
Oh, how do I see that?
Um,
Do I click on chat?
yes.
Ah. Oh yeah, one of your members, Amy Scolari, she's in one of my films, Lost Lula. She's in there. Hi, Amy.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, that last image was me. That was pretty cool.
Hey,
Yeah, that-
Steve, I'm wondering if you sell your work.
Oh, good question. No. Making money with short films is extremely difficult. There's not a real big market for it. Most filmmakers make short films as kind of a stepping stone in order to get funding for a feature film. I'm not looking towards making a feature film because, you know, it takes me 2 or 3 years to make one of these. In a feature film, I'm not sure I have that much time left in my life. So I'm not looking to make a feature film. Putting these short films on compilations and making a few cents here and there, streaming, it's just like, I'd rather get them out there, and I'd rather people see them. So I just put them on my website for free. I've done a tiny bit of commercial animation over the years. I don't look for it. Sometimes I do it if it suits me, but I don't try to make a job out of this.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Do we have any other questions out there for Steve?
Hey, this is his biased partner here. Anyway, Stephen, you should show I want you to show how you store your index cards briefly before we wrap up. I think it's kind of clever.
So I've been in love with little index cards since high school. I did my term papers on them, and then in college I used them to sketch on, and then I started making films on them. So this is my library card catalog, and you can see it has 1 through 5. It's got 30 drawers, and they're all full.
Wow.
These are all drawings, and it goes, like I said, it goes back to 1988 and all the way up to my latest stuff down here. I'm very organized. When people come in my studio, they can't believe it. They say, "You're the most organized artist I've ever seen." Here's my storyboard. That's where I map out. I got a film going right now called Notice of Rejection, and so I've got kind of a storyboard mapped out over there, and it's magnetic. And then this is my little animation nook where I have a light table, and I can put drawings on that little light box there and see through them as I draw. So
Super
that's the
cool.
2-second
I
studio
have a
tour.
question. Steve,
Yeah.
do you occasionally apply for grants or apply to go to an art retreat such as the Morris Graves homestead?
Well, I applied for a grant once, the Victor Jacoby grant, and I got it with Carol's help because she's a professional grant writer. But that's the only time I've done it. Actually, making films on index cards is extremely cheap. Once you have the computer to put them all together, there's very little cost involved. The biggest cost is licensing the music or paying musicians. So yeah, kind of, but not regularly.
Steve, there's a question in the chat. How did you learn to draw?
Like we started out saying, I did go to art school. However, I almost flunked drawing. I was really into photography back then. So I didn't do that much drawing in art school, but as I mentioned earlier, I did start the Arcata Life Drawing Circle in 1997. And so I've been drawing every Thursday night since then. And that kind of weekly practice will get you some skills. Also, drawing thousands of drawings for films will also give you some good practice.
Yeah, so skills, yeah.
Self-taught, basically, yeah.
Very cool.
Thanks.
Steve, has anyone else taken on this art form of short films since you've started it?
Well, there's thousands of people making short films. When I started, it was hard because you had to do 16 millimeter and have a lab and do all that kind of stuff. Now, tons of people are making short films because it's so accessible with the technology. You can make a pretty good high quality short film with an iPhone these days, which when I first started, that was just unthinkable. So yeah, I mean, I'm not the one who started this. There are tons of people doing this. No one that I know does it, this way. But,
Oh, that's what I was wondering. If
on index cards?
On the note cards, yeah.
I don't know of anyone personally who's doing it on note cards, but I didn't come up with the idea myself. I heard about back in, college days, one of my professors said, oh, there's this guy that did a film on index cards, and it kind of caught my attention. So it's been done by somebody here and there, but I don't know of anybody who's doing it like full time, like on a regular basis. So I'm not real sure.
As someone who can't stay focused more than 37 seconds at a time, it's very impressive. So, but I am a numbers guy. I'm very interested. How many total index cards do you think you've drawn on? Order of magnitude.
Oh gosh, one time I'm a numbers guy too, and I think I tried to add that up one time years ago. You could do it because on my website, all my films are listed, and part of the information on each page for each film is the number of index cards. So you could actually go through and add them up, but that doesn't account for all like when I get a film done, I have this many cards make the film, and there's probably about this many what I call scratch cards, which are not in the film, but I drew on them as part of the process. So you can take that number, add them up on my website, take that number and just about double it. It's probably around 50,000 or something. That's just a wild guess.
Wow.
It's a lot.
I would do it, but that seems like it takes a long time. I don't want to do the math. I'm sorry, I don't have the attention.
Any other questions?
Early.
Steve, didn't you create the Chango character for Los Bagels? Was that right?
Well, I didn't create that character, but I did draw it a lot, and I used it in I made an animation for Los Bagels, and I used that character, and I also adapted that character. It's the little squirrel-looking thing. For those of you who don't know what Chango is, Los Bagels logo has a little squirrel thing in it, and I adapted that design and made various other designs that they've used. And consequently, everyone thinks I designed the Los Bagels logo, but I didn't. I've just done a lot of their other graphics. And you can see that on my website too. There's a section of other work outside of films. There's like the Los Bagels commercial, Wild Berries commercial, a couple other things. Those are kind of fun to watch.
Any other questions out there? Well, Steve, thank you so much for sharing. I love the animations, the music, so inspirational. I think it's great. Similar to what Karen's doing, some pandemic inside time to I remember when I was in high school doing the same thing, either with Post-its or something, coming up with the animations that way. But so fun and creative. I appreciate it. So thank you, and thanks, Carol, for recommending him. So